Hi, hello everyone. Today we are going to be busting myths and misconceptions about academic research. So, what are those stereotypes, those strange beliefs, things that you're like, I'm not so sure about what's going on there? Today I'm going to talk about some of the three most common academic research myths, and we're going to bust that bubble. So, the very first one that I want to talk about is drum roll. It's one of the common ones. Often people believe that when they think of research, the first thing that comes to mind is probably that there is only one way of doing research. And it's usually maybe, just that numbers. When they think of research, they think of the numbers, the statistics, and that's probably because that's how research started. But it's definitely has evolved. There's a lot more happening in the world of research now. Research is not just one way anymore. There are so many ways you can carry out research. You can go out, actually live where you are, and go and interview people. You can decide to do an observation of interaction. So you could stand back and just observe the interactions that's naturally occurring between groups of people. You could decide to use surveys, questionnaires. You could conduct a poll where you ask people what their opinions about something is. You can as well do an experiment where you can expose a group of people to maybe a medication and give the other group a placebo, like a water pill or something, and then you assess the effect on each group. So research is no longer one way. There are so many ways. Research is so creative these days. A lot of people are so creative, and every time I see a new method, a new way, of course it's guided by, there's a conceptual guide to it. There's a framework. Amidst all of this chaos, there's definitely a thinking. There's a guide through all of this thinking. But inside all of that, there is the room for flexibility. Okay. So that's the first myth busted. The second one is very similar to the first one. The first one I said was about conducting research in one way, but the second one is about where research happens. So the myth is people often think that research only happens in a lab. Dun dun, we're going to bust that as well. And can I tell you that research not just don't happen in a lab alone. There's a lot of places where research can take place and can happen. And I think this is where might have been fueled by social media. Some of those movies that we've watched where we see, the scientists with their coat, and they're like solitary confined in a place, and they've got their coat on, and people think when you do research you're like confined in a place and you're locked away. You're locked away to do nothing but that research. So can we demystify this and let you know that research, especially social researchers, are social beings? And I am a social researcher as well, and I like to interact with people. We like to use social media to create and observe interactions. Sometimes we take to the streets, like I said, to interview people if we have to. And I think one of the common mistakes is if a new researcher decides to make the assumption that they have to be by themselves to do research, you can definitely miss out on the discussion of the ideas with your fellow researchers. And what I've noticed that in most higher degree research, you would see that you would have a room where you're all grouped together, so you all sit in sort of like the same area. And the reason for that is because you can interact together with people, with your fellow researchers, and you don't want to miss out on those stimulation and those interaction that you can get. And what I found often is when you have those interactions, maybe with other professionals in your workplaces, in a class, or at conferences where you get to discuss your work, the benefits is that the input that you get can often clarify your thought and your thinking, because sometimes you just need to spell it out. You need to tell somebody about it. You need to speak it out. And when you say it out, often the other person sees where you're coming from, and they clear your thoughts for you as well. They help you to sometimes even put your research designs together a bit better and make your findings a bit more comprehensible as well. So research can be carried out in any setting, and researchers, for example, like I would go any place that I have to go to be able to collect and gather the information that we need. So again, when you think about the theories and the concepts that we have these days, most of them are developed from interactions with community, between community norms and the patterns of interactions that happens among that community. So that's the second misconception busted, is that research happens anywhere. It can happen anywhere depending on the type of research that you're doing and what you have to do to get the information that you need. So the very last misconception that we're going to bust is that often people think, and this is one of the most common ones, and I think I've left it to last because I have seen and heard a lot of people say research is for a particular set of people, or you have to have some certain qualities to be able to do research in a way. Yes, that is true. There are qualities that you have to have, but most of these qualities, can I tell you, are generic. To be honest, creativity, having judgment, communication, organizational skills, and most of all, persistence. Just having that, being that, a dog with a bone, not letting go. And I think that's one of the main skills that you would have to really learn. And when I do another log, I'm going to talk about why picking the right questions and making sure that you pick something that motivates you when you decide to do a research topic. Pick something that motivates you, because you need the persistence. You need that motivation when everything else fails. So research and doing research is not just for a set of people. So anyone can be a researcher. So for example, let's break it down. You want to buy a phone, yeah? You decide to ask around from people who own the same phone how good that phone is, yeah? And then you don't stop there. You now then go ahead and you do a Google search. You're looking for evidence and looking for reviews. From there, you make deductions. It's based on the information that you have, okay? And then you might go ahead and then spread your conclusions around and say, oh, this is what I found. So you gather information, you make deduction, you made a conclusion about what you want to buy, and then you go around and tell people and say, look, this is what I found and this is what I'm going to do. So in a way, that is a form of research, even though you don't think you're doing research, but you are actually, in fact, doing research. So, and the reason why it doesn't sound like research to you is because it doesn't have all of these academic names and the academic research names, where if I want to tie to what I've just described in an academic language or a research title, I might say something like customer attitudes towards mobile phone purchase, a psychoanalytical study or a phenomenological study. Okay. So this is just to show you that we all use the skills that we need to do research academically in our everyday lives, and the decisions that we make and our approach to life most times is all of the research skills that we need. So I am going to put a stop on that today, and hopefully you've learned something, one or two things about some of the myths and the stereotypes about research. So the first myth again that we busted today was that there is only one way to do research. That's a myth and it's busted. Another one was that research only happens in a lab, like a confined place. That's busted as well. And the last one is that research is only for a defined set of people, and we know that that's just not right. Okay, so that's it from me this week. Bye, and hopefully I'll see you again all very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.